Welcome! In this explainer, we're going to crack one of English grammar's most common puzzles, the whole curious case of countable and uncountable nouns. So, have you ever stopped and wondered about this? Why does two dogs sound totally fine, but two informations just sounds wrong? It seems so simple, but it trips up a ton of people. Well, by the end of this, you're going to know exactly why this happens and how to nail it every single time. So here's our game plan. We're going to break it all down in 4 simple steps. First, we'll look at the fundamental difference between countable and uncountable. Then, we'll dive into the rules for making nouns plural. After that, we'll tackle the tricky nouns that can be both. And finally, we'll put all that new knowledge to use. Okay, let's jump right in. What really separates these two types of nouns? Let's find out. So, a countable noun is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. It's something you can, well, count. If you can stick a number in front of it, like 1 pen or 5 pens, you're looking at a countable noun. It can be singular, which just means one, or plural, meaning more than one. Easy, right? And here's some really good news. Check out this chart. The vast majority of nouns in English are actually countable, so you're already most of the way there. Our main job is to just get a handle on that smaller, but still super important group of uncountable ones. Now, uncountable nouns are a different beast. They refer to things we think of as a whole, like a single mass or an abstract idea. You can't really separate them into individual pieces. Just think about rice. You don't count every single grain, right? You see it as one thing. And the same goes for big ideas like information or happiness. And this slide just lays out the key differences perfectly, side by side. With countables, you can use numbers and words like a or an. But for uncountables, nope, you'd never say a furniture or 3 furnitures. It just has that one single form. All right, let's move on to our next section. We're going to look at how countable nouns actually transform from singular into plural. Luckily, most nouns follow a few very predictable patterns. For most of them, you just slap an S on the end. If a noun ends in a hissing kind of sounds like S or chi, you add ES just to make it easier to say. And for words that end in a consonant plus a Y, you just swap that Y for IES. See? Not so bad. Of course, English loves to break its own rules. These here are the usual suspects, the most common irregular plurals you're going to see all the time. They don't follow the patterns, but they're so common that, honestly, you'll get the hang of them in no time. Okay, now for what I think is the most fascinating part of this whole thing. The nouns that can be both countable and uncountable, but they change their meaning. Let's start with experience. When it's countable, we're talking about specific individual events or memories, right? An amazing experience. But when it's uncountable, it means the general skill or knowledge you've built up over time, work experience. 2 totally different things. And with the word time, context is absolutely everything. Are you counting specific instances like, I've seen that movie 3 times? That's countable. Or are you talking about time as this big, general, flowing thing like, we just don't have enough time? Well, that's uncountable. And we see the exact same thing with hair. It's pretty logical, actually. If you can count the individual strands, like, yuck, finding one single hair in your soup, it's countable. But when you're talking about all the hair on someone's head as a whole concept, well, then it's uncountable. All right, you've gathered all the clues, you've seen all the evidence, now let's put it all together and finally solve that classic grammar mystery, when to use many and when to use much. And here it is, the golden rule. And you know what? It's beautifully simple. You use many with plural countable nouns, things you can count, like peoples, spaces, or trees. And you use much with uncountable nouns, things you can't count, like money or rain. That's it. That's the core rule. But there is one little conversational trick here. In everyday speech, we mostly use much in questions and negative sentences. If you're making a positive statement, saying something like, we have a lot of time, sounds way more natural than we have much time. The big exception, though, is when you pair it with so or to. He has so much patience sounds totally fine. Okay, time for a little pop quiz. Let's test those skills. Go ahead and pause here and decide if each blank needs much or many. You got it? All right, the answers are much homework, many good seats, many times, and much patience. So how'd you do? And we'll just end on this thought. It's a fantastic reminder that time can be that big, uncountable concept, and that really, just continuing to use and experience the language is the best teacher you could ever ask for. So keep exploring.